Hello and welcome to another recording on internal controls and cash. In this video, we're going to talk about an internal control that's used by companies on a monthly basis in order to exercise control over their cash, that is to reconcile their books with what the bank says they have. It's not uncommon that there are mistakes made during the period, and this is your opportunity to find those mistakes, identify them, and correct them. So let's work through a very simple example of a bank reconciliation statement. In the next video, we'll work on one which is a little more complicated. So let's take a look at what we have over here. In this case, on July 31st, 2022, Keith's company has a cash balance as per books of $6,140. The statement from Dakota State Bank on that date shows a balance of $7,690.80. A comparison of the bank statement to the cash account revealed the following facts. They've given me 6 pieces of information based on which I'm going to prepare my bank reconciliation statement. So let me start over here showing you how I would set up the bank reconciliation statement. This is an internal document. It's not published for outsiders. However, it's an important document that the auditor is going to ask for. So as with all documents, we start out by, in the first line, we write the name of our business. In this case, it's Keith's company. Second line, you identify what the statement is, what this document is. In this case, it's a bank reconciliation statement. And all of these documents must have a date. This is on July 31st, 2022 that we're preparing this. Now, this is an internal document, and there are many different ways in which I can have the presentation of the document. The content is going to be the same regardless of how I present it. So I'm doing this with what looks like a T account, but it's not a T account, it's just a statement. So on the two sides, I'm going to have information about what I have in my books and what the bank says I have. So let's start out with, on this side, I have balance as per our books. That's what my cash balance is in my ledger. And on the other side, I'm going to write balance per bank. So the very first piece of information I have is balance as per my books is 6140. I'm going to put that number on in this column. And then I say that I have, the bank says I have 7690.80. I put that on this side. So these are just two sides of the sheet of paper, nothing more to it than that. Now, typically on the bank side, there will be only two items in terms of what I need to make adjustments. One is if there are deposits in transit, and the other if there are checks outstanding. Deposits in transit means I have deposited the money in the bank, so my account already shows that I've added that number, but the bank has not yet cleared it, so the bank will clear it and add it to my account. That needs to go on this side. I need to add it. I've already taken care of it. Checks outstanding, on the other hand, indicate I have written out a check in payment and given it to someone. The bank has not yet cleared it. There could be a delay in terms of the customer has still not, the vendor has still not received the check. Maybe they received it, they've not deposited it, or they've deposited it and it has not yet cleared the bank. It will in a matter of a couple of days, and then my balance will go down. So those are typically the only two adjustments we have on the bank side. But the book side, there could be many adjustments. So let's start with the first one here. Bank service charges for July are $25. The bank has charged me $25 for maintaining my account. This money, the bank has already taken it out of my account. I need to make the adjustment here on my side. So I have things that I'm going to add and subtract. I can either just put them in the order in which I see them, or I can organize them as additions and subtractions. So I'm going to do it this way. So I'm going to write here less bank service charges. And I know that's $25. It needs to be subtracted. I've already written the word less. But when I'm working in Excel, and even if you're working on this in a notebook, write down in parentheses or the minus sign to remind yourself that when you add this column, it should be subtracted over here. The next one is the bank collected $15.20 from a customer for us through electronic funds transfer. So the bank has collected the money for me and put the money in my account already. I need to update my books. So it's going to be an addition. I'm going to write add electronic funds transfer. This is a collection. So I'm going to add the amount $15.20. The third says on July 31st, receipts of $1193.3 were not included in the bank deposits for July. So this is an item that I have already received the money. I have shown it in my books, but I have not yet taken it to the bank and added it over there. And when I do, it's going to go into my account. So I'll have add deposits in transit, and that amount is 1193.3. In number 4, we are told that a company check of 2480 issued to L. Taylor, a creditor, for $384 has cleared the bank on July, but was incorrectly entered in our cash payments book at $348. So what's happened over here is we have made a mistake. We wrote a check in payment. The check was for the correct amount. It has cleared the bank. Our creditor is happy with us. In my books, I'm showing that I paid only $348. So it's showing that I still owe money and I need to make a correction for that. So that's an error correction I need to make. I need to subtract that amount because that has already gone out of my account. So the difference between these two numbers, 348 minus 384, $36, I need to credit the account. In number 5, I'm told checks outstanding at July 31st are 1860.10. These are payments that I have made that the bank has not yet cleared it. When they do, they're going to take the money out of my account. So that's going to be on this side, the bank side, less checks outstanding. And the amount is 1860.1. Now, if they have given me details about deposits in transit and checks outstanding, for instance, checks outstanding, if these represented 2 checks, one check was for $1,000, the other was for 860.10, I will list those individually over here so that the next month when I do a bank reconciliation statement, I can check from the previous month which checks have cleared or not. In this case, they've just given us a total amount and we will write that amount over here. And finally, we are told on July 31st, the bank statement showed an NSF charge of $575 for a check received by the company, that's us, from W. Kruger, a customer on account. NSF stands for non-sufficient funds. That's a nice way of saying that this customer gave me a bad check. The check has bounced. So what happened is when I received the check, my journal entry was cash debit, accounts receivable credit. So I had added this amount to my account. Now I have told that that check is bad, that money is not in the bank. So what I need to do is I need to subtract this. This money is not with me, so I need to subtract it. Now I've taken care of all 6 pieces of information. Assuming I have all the correct information here and I've presented it correctly over here, I will get what's called the adjusted cash balance, and that number should be the same on both sides. So let me put that here. So when you add up these numbers over here, on this side I arrive at 7,024, and over here I'm going to arrive at 7,024. This is the number that needs to be in my balance sheet. So in my balance sheet right now, I have 6140 because that's what's in the ledger in the books. I want it to be 7,024. So the net amount, the net difference. So let me put that over here. The net difference is going to be this number, the correct number minus what I have, $884. I cannot put this number in my balance sheet unless I do an adjusting entry. I need to show an adjustment for all of these numbers over here. So let me show you how that is to be done. This is an adjusting entry. I can do it as one entry for all of these, or I can do them as separate entries, and I'll do them as separate entries so that I can explain each of these to you, how it would be. So it's an adjusting entry. This is on July 31st, 2022. So let's start with the first one. I added this amount to my cash account. So cash has to be debit. Why am I adding this amount? Why is this cash debit? Because a customer paid me. The bank collected for me from a customer. So they owed me money. There was notes receivable. I've collected on the notes receivable. So it'll be cash debit, notes receivable credit for 1520. Now all these are going to be subtractions, which means cash has to be credited for these, for each one of these. So I'm going to do each one of these individually, again, just so that I can explain this to you. So I have cash credit, bank service charge, it's an expense. Uh, I can either create an account called bank service charge, which is what I've done over here. A company can choose to, if it's an insignificant amount, they could decide to just roll it up into an account called miscellaneous expense. They could roll it up into an account called office expense. Whatever the company decides to do, they have to be consistent. Every month they have to do the same thing, put that amount in that same account. I'm going to put it in bank service charge account because I've not been given any specific information. Now there's that $36, which was a mistake that I made in my books. That's the error that I need to correct. And that amount we already said is $36. I also know cash is credit because cash is subtracted over here. What do I need to debit? The account I need to debit is accounts payable, because in that case, it was showing that I still owe $36 when I don't owe that $36, because the check was for the correct amount. I made the payment. So I need to debit cash, which is accounts payable, which is a liability, and credit cash to indicate that that account, that amount that I owed is completely off the books and we've settled that account. Now this last adjustment, unfortunately, again, cash is credit. And in this case, I need to bring that money back, the account back in my books. I need to collect from that customer. If you recall, I told you when I received the check, my journal entry would have been cash debit, accounts receivable credit. So I'm essentially reversing that entry to bring the receivable back into my books. Now, when I do this, each of these journal entries, and I post them into the ledger, my cash balance will work out to be 7,024. Again, like I said, you could combine all of this and make it one journal entry. Okay, so how would I do that? It's going to be either what we did, each of those, or I could have it as 7/34/2020, 7/31/2020. I could do cash debit, and I'm going to write down bank service charge, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and notes receivable. So let's see how this would work out. I have $25, $36. Excuse me, let me correct that. It's $25, it's a debit. $36, a debit. $5.75 debit. Notes receivable is going to be credited, $15.20. And if I take the difference between the debits and the credits, I should arrive at that $8.84. That's the number I had over here. I told you was a difference. So when I post this journal entry, either I do just this one journal entry, or I do the journal entry that's about the journal entries that are above over here. Either way, the individual accounts have to be updated so that all the corrections and adjustments can be made to those respective accounts. When I do this, my cash balance is going to be 7,024, and that in fact is the correct balance that I can take into my balance sheet. So this was a relatively easy exercise in which we didn't have anything complicated. All the information was straightforward, and I could put the information in the bank reconciliation statement to arrive at the adjusted or the true cash balance. So in the next video, I'm going to work on a different exercise in which we have to work out a lot more numbers because the information is not given as directly as in this exercise. So make sure you watch the next video, which is going to be up in a few minutes.